Robert, I know that you got Kevin O'Connell, first-year coach in Minnesota, and they got 10 wins. I know Dan Campbell started off 1-6, and he's got the Detroit Lions on the verge of an unprecedented 7-7. Okay, a little sarcasm, but I'm a Lions fan. But I got to say, just all the things that I mentioned, I got to give it to Shanahan and the 49ers. How about you?
I can understand that. A couple of the guys I thought were up near the top for most of the season. I thought that Brian Daboll and what he was doing with the Giants, them being even on the brink of being a playoff team with arguably the least talented roster in the league. He was my coach of the year halfway through. Obviously, they've fallen off a little bit. You can make an argument for Mike McDaniel and what he had built that offense into in Miami. And I still think they're going to be okay in the long run, but they've obviously taken a dip over the last couple of weeks. You're not going to hear any arguments from me about how great of a coach Kyle Shanahan is. I've long believed this. I think that every time he's had a viable quarterback of any kind, I mean, whether it be Jimmy Garoppolo or someone else, his offenses have been unbelievable. He turned Matt Ryan into the MVP. If you look at Matt Schaub's numbers in his 2 years with Kyle Shanahan when they were in Houston together, I think it was 08, 09, when Kyle was the coordinator, it was the best years of Schaub's career. He was playing at a Pro Bowl, kind of borderline all-pro level. And then in San Francisco, Nick Mullins was an above-average starter for the 49ers during his time there. It's unbelievable. You look at the numbers, and I mean, it's not they don't blow you away, but his numbers in San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan were that of an average NFL starter. He's barely been able to hang on to rosters since he left there. So what Kyle Shanahan's able to build his offense into, I think he's in the argument every single year to be the best offensive coach in the league. The only thing I would say that would ding him is that I think the Niners' Super Bowl chances, I think the reason that their record looks what it looks like is their defense. So how much credit do you give Kyle Shanahan for hiring DeMeco Ryans, for kind of creating this culture of defense as an offense first head coach?
I give him credit for that. Yeah, sure.
If you do, then I have no problem with it whatsoever, because that defense, to me, that's why even with Brock Purdy at quarterback, they still can actually win a Super Bowl.
All right, so he said, I'm not going to read way too much into what he said about the most poised rookie he's ever had at quarterback, because we know he had Kirk Cousins and RG3 together, same rookie class as rookies. Got it. All right, fine. But he also had Trey Lance as a rookie. You know what I mean? Like, I know what he's trying to say. Should you read into that or not? Or is this just a compliment of, hey, Brock Purdy in the moment, and you don't have to worry about Trey Lance? Trey Lance is still their franchise guy no matter what happens this year? Or is this a conversation, Robert, that we should start thinking about?
I think he's just trying to gas his guy up a little bit, make him feel better about how he's played and also what he did last night. And part of that comment and part of that praise is rooted in him walking into that game hurt. They didn't even know if he was going to be able to play last night. And for him to play and play fairly well, I think says a lot about Brock Purdy. Trey Lance was the starter for 2 games as a rookie, and I wouldn't read too much into it. And it's been a long time since he coached RG3, and I think that was a unique situation in Washington when it comes to how Kyle felt about those quarterbacks, how he deployed those quarterbacks. So I think it's more a case of him just being really impressed with what Brock Purdy has done rather than him trying to slight his other guys in any way.
All right, not slighting the guys. How about just where we stand now with the 49ers? I mean, they have Jimmy, not because they wanted him initially. They were looking, hey, it was going to be Trey Lance, and Jimmy has to get out of there. I think they were waiting for their time, and then Lance gets hurt. Hey, Jimmy's here, so we love you again. But I'm looking at so between these 3 quarterbacks, you got Jimmy, you got Trey, and you got Brock. Is it if you had to call it, is this a real quarterback controversy? Is it a conversation about who's the quarterback for the 49ers going forward? Or do you just sit back and sleep easily and say, hey, 2023, this is going to be Trey Lance's job again?
I think it's still going to be Trey Lance's job again. And I think that having
no matter what
Purdy is I can't imagine anything changing that.
What if they win the Super Bowl?
I think that what you put into Brock, what you put into Trey Lance, everything you traded for Trey Lance, I still think you're obligated to see the Trey Lance thing through. And there is a reason that they made that trade for Trey Lance, because I know in this perfect quarterback machine that Kyle Shanahan has built, You can have a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo be one of the most efficient passers in the league. You can have a guy like Brock Purdy look like an above average quarterback. The whole point of making that deal for Trey Lance is so you no longer have to rely on that quarterback machine. You have a quarterback who can step outside of that and be great, even if the other elements of it start to break down a little bit. That's still true. What Trey Lance can do outside of structure, what Trey Lance's physical ability theoretically allows him to do, I still think shooting for that long term is worthwhile for the Niners. But now you have this guy in Brock Purdy who is under contract for 3 more years. If Trey Lance gets dinged up, you have a guy now that you can really rely on as your backup. And there aren't that many teams in the NFL that can reasonably say that week in and week out.
Well, Robert, see, I'm a dreamer. I'm a Pisces. Okay? I'm a dreamer. So let's just play this out. You mean to tell me Brock Purdy, quarterbacks, the 49ers, not because of him. As you said, defense is dominant. It's tremendous. Really a lot of fun to watch. Quarterbacks them to the NFC Championship game. They win it in Philadelphia. Then they get to the Super Bowl in Arizona. Brock Purdy, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Hey, your Super Bowl MVP is Brock Purdy. And then the next year, he just kind of goes back to holding the clipboard and, encouraging Trey when he walks off the field. Like, really? Or they flip him. I mean, something's got to happen. He's got to start there or somewhere else. Doesn't he?
You got to take the long-term view of this. DeMeco Ryans is probably not going to be their defensive coordinator next year. They're going to have to pay Nick Bosa this offseason. All of these circumstances change. You're never going to have the same team with the exact same set of circumstances moving forward. I don't think the defense is going to be as good next year. I don't think they're going to be able to maintain all these weapons when all these guys have to start getting paid. Brandon Ayuk has 2 years left on his rookie contract. Are they going to be able to pay Brandon Ayuk after they've paid Deebo Samuel, paid George Kittle, have Christian McCaffrey what he costs? Understanding that it's not going to be as good roster talent-wise, circumstances-wise moving forward as it is now, and that's why you have to bet on the quarterback who's more talented. Saying, well, Brock Purdy did it this year, he can do it again, that's where I think it gets a little bit dicey, and you have to really take a step back and say, all right, realistically, who is going to give us our best shot next year, 2 years from now, 3 years from now? And with the guys they currently have on the roster, I think that's why they still have to bet on Trey Lance.
It's a great point. It's a great point, really, when you talk about it's not always going to look like this, because right now San Francisco has everything. It's still a salary cap league, and I know some people take issue with that. Oh, you can play games with the cap, but you have McCaffrey and you got Ayuk, as you said, Deebo Samuel, a lot of guys, a lot of stars. And we didn't even mention some of the guys on defense who want to get paid too. So you got a lot of
they're going to have to lose some of those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, Dre Greenlaw is probably not going to be a 49er forever, because if you're paying Fred Warner what you're paying him, it's hard to pay a guy like Dre Greenlaw that. It's a good problem to have, but eventually the financial reality set in.
Listen, here's the last question I have for you, and I'm just going to tell you, I want a guy like you by my side. I do, because you are a good teammate. You are a good coworker. Because I have tried to move you off that quarterback spot. I've tried to get you to go to the nice short-term option right here. It's right here in front of you, Brock Purdy. And no, you're taking the long view. And I wish that we were together running the New York Jets. Because the New York Jets have done the opposite. Robert, the number 2 pick in the draft last year, just last year, Zach Wilson, number 2 in the entire draft. You didn't expect to win 12 games this year. He helped you. You made some progress. They're not looking at it as, hey, growing pains, or he made some mistakes, or he has some immaturity issues. They gave up on him a couple of weeks ago, inactive, and now going into a big game against Detroit. He's a number 2 quarterback to somebody called Mike White. Okay? So what's going on? Do you agree with what the Jets are doing? I don't. I think they have really botched this situation. How about you?
A couple different considerations with Zach Wilson compared to Trey Lance. Trey Lance has really started 2.5, 3 games in the NFL. He had 2 starts last year in relief. His first start this year was in a monsoon in Chicago, and then he got hurt in his 4th start. We haven't really seen Trey Lance. We've seen Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson's played 20 games in the NFL. He started 20 games in the NFL, and he's been the worst quarterback in football over that stretch. If you look at it statistically,
that's one season though. That's one season.
Totally understand. It is a small sample, and young guys, we shouldn't expect them to be great right away. Look what's happening with Trevor Lawrence right now. Look what's happening with Jalen Hurts right now. Having a little bit of patience with those guys is important. But I also think that based on reading the tea leaves and looking from the outside in, this is about more than on-field performance. This is about the way he's handled this situation. Some of those comments after the game against, I think it was New England, where he's like, you know what? Yeah. And when asking him if he let the defense down, him essentially saying, nah, I don't think so.
And he threw for 77 yards in that game. He threw for 77 yards.
I mean, they needed a crazy, it's the fact that a crazy punt return can win that game for the Patriots. The Jets are building something there. If you look at the way their defense plays, if you look at the young players they have on offense, I think this is a culture move as much as it's a quarterback move. And they see him every single day in practice. They know what he looks like every single day. I don't mind them pulling the plug on this if, one, they just don't think he has it in terms of his skill set, the way he plays the position at the NFL level, which I could argue that he doesn't. And when you watched him play at BYU, their offensive line at BYU was a brick wall. It was incredible to watch them play against that talent. Brady Christensen, their left tackle, is a starter for the Carolina Panthers right now. They were better than who they played against week in and week out. He very rarely had to navigate pressure, understand how to play in muddy pockets, and that is what he has struggled with immensely in the NFL. And I do think there's an element of that feel for the game and that feel for traffic in the pocket that you either have or you don't. And it really doesn't seem like Zach Wilson has that element to his game. So if they're combining that factor with the personality factor and really trying to get everyone moving in the same direction in that building, I can understand saying, you know what? He's just not the guy we need right now. And we're willing to pull the plug on this and take our chances in the veteran quarterback market this year because we think we have a roster that's ready to win right now. And he is not the guy who's going to get us there.
Yeah, I would just feel so uncomfortable with that. And I don't mind being wrong. I'm wrong all the time. I don't mind saying it. But I would just be so uncomfortable after 20, as you said, 20 starts of making that decision. And I know, some of the personality issues are there. But I look at the payoff. I look at the quarterback class, and not even the class. I'll say that the top 5 quarterbacks, Robert, of the 2021 draft. So you have Mac Jones was the 5th quarterback. You got Trey Lance. You still don't know what you have in Trey Lance. Trevor Lawrence is starting to flash now, but even though he's had some games this year, not personality-wise, but he's had some games, like that Philadelphia game. Hey, Trevor, hold on to the ball. What are you doing? He's all over the place. You look at Justin Fields. He's starting to show some things right now. I mean, some of these guys, it takes, and then Zach Wilson, it takes some time. It really takes some time. You're going to miss the payoff when it happens. I think that payoff is going to happen somewhere else. I do think it's going to happen for Zach Wilson, but it sounds like you don't think it's there.
The example I think back to is Josh Allen. And Josh Allen's first couple of years in the league were rough. His rookie year in 2018 was a terrible statistical season. He was fine in 2019. He made strides in specific areas, but there were still elements of his game that were really lacking. I went to Buffalo that year in 2019 to write about the improvements he was making and the strides that he had made on offense. What struck me when I was there wasn't any talk about the mechanics of how he played the position. It was that every single guy in that building would have walked over glass for Josh Allen. And I think that's important when you're considering why certain quarterbacks develop and why other quarterbacks don't, is that when you have these guys that are smart and bought in and willing to do everything they can to get better, to get where they need to go, that influences the guys around them. The guys around them attach themselves to that. That's how people feel about Jalen Hurts. That's how people feel about Justin Fields in Chicago. That's how people feel about Trevor Lawrence and everything that's come out of that building in Jacksonville and how he carries himself. We haven't heard a single word about that with Zach Wilson. You haven't heard a single guy in that locker room talk about him that way. And I think there's a reason for that. And it's so easy to point to a couple down statistical years for a young quarterback and say, why can't Zach Wilson do this? Josh Allen isn't Josh Allen because he was bad and had some physical tools and then wasn't anymore. Josh Allen is Josh Allen because he's so much smarter than everyone thinks he is. And his desire to get himself to the level we see right now was unceasing. And I think those are the elements that the Jets probably know more about than we do. And that's why I'm not as uncomfortable with them making a bet like this.
I like the way you say that. I like unceasing, the unceasing desire to get better. Robert Mays, we always get better when you're on. We get smarter. Appreciate you, my friend. If we don't talk to you before, happy holidays to you and yours. We'll catch up with you soon.
Appreciate it. Talk soon.
All right, Robert. Thanks.
Thanks.
Hey, thanks for watching Brother from Another on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe before you leave, and be sure to watch us 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Peacock. Appreciate you.